Hello and welcome to Cascadia Mountain Weather. It's Thursday, November 21st, 2024. My name is Colin McCrone here with Wyatt Mullen, and I'm reporting not from my usual location because Issaquah has been without power for quite a while since the bomb cyclone hit us. So here's a picture of some of the trails in Issaquah. Issaquah got hit really hard, and a lot of that King County east side, just tons of blowdowns, and Wyatt's gonna first dive into a little bit what happened this week.
Yeah, so we can look at a map of the wind gusts from this is from Tuesday night, when this bomb cyclone was off of our coast and we were seeing the strongest winds. And you can kind of see how variable the nature of these winds are. We had some really, really strong gusts, especially out towards the east, kind of eastern foothills. So the Cascade foothills, you'll see that near North Bend, near the I-90 gap, gusting up towards 50. This is a little bit further south, 66, so kind of near that Enumclaw area, maybe even 70 miles an hour were some gusts over there. And also out towards SeaTac Airport in the 50s. But there were a lot of places that saw almost no wind at all. It was very, very, very localized. And then we also had some really strong winds also out towards the strait. And we're going to go a little bit into what was causing this, um, but we're not going to dive too deeply. Basically, this was kind of related to a mountain wave event. So it wasn't exactly like our standard easterly flow. Sometimes that we'll see, especially during the winter, where you'll get high pressure on one side of the Cascades and low pressure, like a low kind of coming up, and you'll get really, really strong winds coming through the gaps. Certainly, we had that, but it was a little bit more localized even than that. We saw kind of these turbulent waves occurring as this wind that was trying to rush out from the high pressure on the east side of the Cascades to get to the extremely low pressure bomb cyclone out of the Pacific. And you saw kind of these undulations occur, and that caused turbulence. And where this turbulence reached down towards the lower elevations, that's where you saw some of the strongest winds. You could actually see on this map just how localized it was. So this is the forecast from that night, looking at like really, really extreme wind gusts that kind of in that 40, 50, 60 mile an hour plus. But you can see that some areas, especially out towards Hood Canal and stuff like that, were almost completely calm. And then you can see all of this wind rushing out through the Strait of Juan de Fuca over here with gusts at upwards of 70 miles per hour. This is in knots, by the way, but it's comparable with miles per hour. And you can see some of these areas, especially near the summits, near Mount Rainier down here, near Baker, saw extremely high winds, but maybe a couple miles away, you saw almost no wind at all. So a really, really unique thing and led to some of the extreme damage that we saw. Additionally, because these areas, this does not happen very frequently. Maybe every couple years, maybe every once every 5 to 10 years of this magnitude. If not, some areas this was the strongest it's been in 50 plus years. So it's kind of interesting to see and what led to that. And then I just wanted to point out one more thing. This is looking up at Alpentalski area and the telemetry, so the data from that night. We can see that it's really going to vary how much it impacted the snow. Some places, like I said, very localized. Some places saw gusts upwards of 60 miles an hour, and some places saw very little wind.
We also saw an unusual snow pattern with this storm and with this wind. So we had a ton of wind rising up the east slopes of the Cascades, and then that would cause moisture to condense. And we saw quite a bit of snowfall in the eastern foothills, especially this was a huge storm for the Methow Valley, which will get their Nordic season underway, and some of those other eastern foothills. We had much less on the west side because that air was descending, it had less moisture, and it was warming. But then the Olympics really got hammered hard. And usually the Olympics, especially the Northeastern Olympics, don't get much snow. A storm dump of 3 to 4 feet is huge in that area. So this is the Snowtel, very early season Snowtel data. And you can see, yeah, overall we have a strong snowpack. But notice how the Olympics are incredibly strong, 450% of normal. And some areas in particular are crazy, like Dungeness. claims it's at 2,650%. What does that mean? What does that mean? Well, basically, like we usually don't really have a snowpack there, and this is an area that doesn't get that much snow at all. Like its typical peak is like 8 to 10 inches of snow water equivalent. That's because it's so dry on the east side of the Olympics. And we're already, in a matter of 1 to 2 days, we got 5 inches, half the season snow water equivalent. So basically at an all-time high here because of this unique storm. So our snow depth overall is really good for mid-November, mid to late November. I think areas, especially above 4,000 feet, are filling in really well, and people are getting out there and skiing and snowshoeing, definitely above 4,500, 5K. And with that, a lot of the ski areas are actually looking to open. So here's the different kind of notable ski area or pass steps. Obviously, Baker and Paradise are out in the lead. Baker had their opening day for pass holders yesterday and had their opening day today. I heard that conditions on opening day of Baker were better coverage than all of last year. So that's like pretty incredible thing for people to say. Paradise is holding strong right there with Baker. Washington Pass, Highway 20 closed last weekend, so it's closer to the season. And Stevens Pass, is probably looking to open by Thanksgiving. Crystal Mountain is opening this weekend.
Yeah, so we're gonna take a look at what's upcoming this weekend. And honestly, there's still a lot of uncertainty in the forecast, even though tonight is Thursday night and we're looking at only a couple days. We're actually gonna have another storm coming up the coast, and models are really struggling to figure out like how big that storm's gonna be, where it's gonna be, if there's how much wind there's gonna be, and what the precipitation is gonna look like after that. So I just wanted to highlight kind of some of the model disagreement right here. This is just showing precipitation, kind of the 6 hours leading up. This is for Sunday specifically, so kind of 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Sunday. If we look at this is the European model, which tends to be the gold standard model, but if we go to the American model, you'll notice that like where the European model was showing a lot of precipitation and rain and kind of the North Sound up towards the North Cascades, the American model shows almost nothing for especially like even with this most recent model run the same. There's like tons of different models, and the Canadian model shows nothing as well. So there's a lot of uncertainty at the moment. What I can also kind of highlight this uncertainty maybe in a slightly better way. This is precipitation. Once again, this is looking at 3 p.m. Sunday to 3 a.m. Monday. So this is the European model and the American model, almost completely different. Where the heaviest rain is. The American model has the heaviest rain for a much further south. And we can also see, looking just at another model, like how kind of much uncertainty there is right now. But saying that, we can look at what the snow level is going to do. And the thing that we do know is that the snow level is going to get pretty high tomorrow. As the storm approaches off the coast, we're going to see the snow level bump up in the North Cascades up to 5 or maybe 6,000 feet. It might avoid that. It might manage to stay around 4,000 feet, but probably further south, we'll see higher snow levels. But even with this, we can see that there's actually quite a bit of uncertainty. Here's two different models. You can see that this is the American model, which drops the snow level down quite a bit next week. And this is the European model, which keeps it higher. So, kind of the nature of this weekend is uncertainty. And the general idea is that we are going to see showers after kind of the decent push of moisture on Friday and warmer temperatures. So as we look in this 3 hour increments, this is a version of the American model. We're going to go forward, and this is 7 a.m. Friday morning. We're going to see a decent push of moisture coming across. We'll see temperatures warm, and the lowlands highs might even get towards 60 degrees, which is quite a bit above average, and that will push up the snow levels. And then after that, we'll have to see what happens, but the story will generally be precipitate showers and especially more snow falling in the Olympics as that snow level crashes down on Saturday and Sunday. We can look at total accumulated precipitation. So this is looking 4 p.m. Thursday through 4 p.m. Friday. And it's going to be in general, I'll slow that down a second, maybe half an inch to an inch, but as we get further into the weekend, you'll see that the Olympics continue to get hammered 1 to 2 inches or more of precipitation or water equivalent, which in terms of snowfall means that they might see upwards of 2, 3 feet, if not more, by the weekend, by the time the weekend is over. This is looking 4 p.m. Friday through 4 p.m. Saturday. You can see that we'll see kind of those showers bringing snow to the North Cascades as well, but not massive amounts, maybe in the 1 to 4 inch range. Maybe we'll see a little bit more up towards Baker, depending on how kind of that uncertainty rolls out and how much precipitation ends up falling. Another story is this chance for winds that I mentioned. This is mostly for Friday. It depends where you're going to be in the mountains. Certainly along the ridge lines and the volcanoes, you might see quite a bit, quite strong winds. This is going to peak in kind of the Friday afternoon to Friday evening time frame, so just be aware of that if you're out there. That also is going to coincide with that warm and high snow levels. So, I mean, I don't know if you exactly want to be out there then. This is probably the worst case scenario because the models are starting to back off on that kind of really strong winds, and we might only see kind of gusts in the 20 to 30 mile an hour range. It's not going to be anything like we just saw this past week. I pointed or I selected Snoqualmie Pass to look at kind of highlight the snow levels and the temperatures. Once again, we're going to see a weekend kind of with temperatures fluctuating between the mid 20s and the mid 30s at most elevations, maybe a little bit colder if you go higher. And then I want to just take one glance out long term. So first, we're going to look at this 8 to 14 day outlook. The models, like I said earlier, lots of uncertainty, but it does look like we're going to be maybe below normal, and it looks like we might be a little bit drier than normal, which will be a change from recently where we've seen quite a bit of precipitation. And today, actually, the seasonal temperature outlook was released by NOAA. And so it's interesting to see now we have the December, January, February, that core winter. And what we're seeing, as has been the theme, is that we're seeing kind of still a La Nina-esque pattern where we see below normal temperatures and above normal precipitation across this northwest area, which should be good for mountain snow and other winter sports. So we'll have to see if that pans out because it doesn't seem to be a typical La Nina. Um, but right now, it seems like NOAA is still thinking that that is going to be what's happening. Finally, we always want to give a shout out to our amazing Patreons who really support us, who give money at either the $5 a week or $5 a month or the $20 a month. Really helps us support. We might actually be able to level up our models and give you better graphics with that support in the coming weeks. So look forward to that. And otherwise, hope you enjoy the weekend and thanks for tuning in again.